If your goals felt really exciting and motivating in January, and now you're kind of feeling a sense of like, ugh, like I'm not really that into them, or maybe you've strayed away from them a bit, you're not lazy, you're not flaky. And there are ways to reconnect with your goals, to feel excited and motivated about your goals again, that aren't pushing yourself and self-disciplining your way to it. In this podcast episode, I'm going to talk about the exact things that you can do to get excited again, to get motivated again, like bring back that same energy that you had at the start of the year for those goals that you set. Starting with the first idea, which is the most important barrier to overcome if you want to reconnect with your goals in a way that feels good. If you want to get to a point where you're like excited about those goals again, there are two ways that you can look at goals. Firstly, you can look at goals as puzzles that you feel excited to figure out, that you feel curious about, that you're just really interested in kind of getting to the bottom of. The second way that you can look at goals, which I think is honestly more common, is looking at goals as weird self-discipline tests without really telling yourself this is a weird self-discipline test. And that mindset is a mindset that you need to move yourself away from if you want to get motivated again when it comes to your goals. So how can you tell if your goals have turned into a weird self-discipline test? Number one, there's a lot of resistance, and that resistance is coming from a place of should. I should be doing that. Oh man, like I have to get back to that. Number two, you're having negative thoughts about yourself in association with your goal. So for example, why can't I get this right? Like, why is this not working for me? What's wrong with me? You know, this is the goal that I set this year. Why could I not stick to it? Those are two really big red flags that you've turned your goals from these, you know, fun, interesting experiments that are designed to actually make your life better into a weird self-discipline test that is designed to make you feel worse about life and less excited about your goals. Here are some ways to inject the joy, the fun, and the curiosity back into your goals and move away from that self-discipline test mindset. Number one, turn them into figure out goals. Basically, instead of something like exercise 3 times a week, which might have turned into a self-discipline test for you, turn it into something like figure out a way of exercising that makes me sweat, feels like a real workout, but isn't really difficult to motivate myself to do. That is a figure out goal. And I always find putting figure out before a goal and getting really clear on what I want to figure out just immediately makes things more fun, makes things more light, makes things more curious. The second way to inject the joy, the curiosity, the good energy back into your goals is to repackage your goals as something different. You might just have bad vibes associated with the word goal. Maybe goal immediately sounds like self-discipline test to your brain. An easy way to switch that up is to just repackage goals. And repackaging can go a long way. In the book, The Power of Flexing, they talk about how in a weight loss study, I know, I'm sorry, it's always a weight loss study, the researchers did find that giving the participants the metaphor of, you know, this is a journey rather than a goal didn't help people immediately. So immediately they didn't put any more effort into their weight loss journey. However, towards the end of the program, that journey metaphor really helped people to stick with it, even above and beyond when the program had ended. As they framed it, it increased the likelihood of continued goal-related behavior. Step 2 is another way to add more fun back into your goals, which immediately will make you want to drift towards them instead of away from them. When it comes to any good goal that you set for yourself, there's an immediate motivator, and that immediate motivator can be something negative that you want to get away from, or it can be something positive that you want to move towards, and they have to be immediate things. For example, I set an intention at the start of the year to stop watching TV shows, and the immediate negative thing that I was trying to get away from with that is that I kind of associate binging TV shows with that feeling of like rotting. It wasn't a weird self-discipline test. I set that goal because I did not like the feeling of binge watching a TV show. I would never, like literally never judge anyone else for doing that. It's a me thing. So that was a goal with a really strong negative motivator. Like I know that feeling and I don't like it and I don't want it. Hence the goal. A positive motivator is an immediate positive reward that is baked into a behavior. So for example, I do weird dancing sessions actually like nearly every day. And whenever I do these weird dancing sessions, it feels good, it's enjoyable, like I'm having a good time. That's the motivator. And what you want to do to increase your motivation towards those goals that you set at the start of the year is to reminisce on the immediate thing that you're either trying to attain, like that you want the feeling of, or the feeling that you don't want more of. And you want to reflect and ask yourself, have I actually set the right goal to get what I want? So for example, if we go back to me setting a goal of not watching TV shows for the year, I set that goal because I just didn't want that feeling of rotting. I didn't want that feeling of not being in control of my time. And all was going well until I got hit with COVID, which was like 7 days of aches and pains and awfulness. And of course, I binge watched like 2 seasons of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And instead of in reaction to that being like, okay, well, I'm just going to drop that goal. Instead, I was like, okay, well, I want to like play around with this because the goal really was just to not feel that like TV rotting away my time feeling. It wasn't to cut out TV shows. So now my approach is I'm doing one daily Schitt's Creek episode where I watch Schitt's Creek and I get my admin done at the same time. I've watched Schitt's Creek before. I know it's like wholesome, light, and fun. And I know it's not going to feel addictive because it's just like, that's not the vibe of the show, and I've seen it before. To get myself to bed last night, I watched BBC's Pride and Prejudice. Anyone who knows me knows that I have seen Pride and Prejudice like 100 million times, but I haven't seen the BBC version. So I was really excited, but it's familiar enough that like I'm not rotting away my time. Like it's just to get me to sleep. And while the wrong type of people that I don't want to attract to my content might see that as like, okay, you failed your goals, I simply don't see it that way because I am still achieving my goal behind the goal. And I want you to apply like my energy to your goals here. I genuinely am like, no, like my goal technically was just to not feel that rotting feeling. I haven't felt that this year. I am achieving my goal. So go through your goals in your mind and be like, what was the goal behind that goal? And how else might I achieve it? Like, do I need to alter the goals that I set at the start of the year so that they still get me what I want, but maybe they're just a different approach that's a little bit more suited? That is the fun of goals. They morph. You play around with them. You get creative. Like, once again, they are not weird self-discipline tests. They are for you to get the goal behind the goal. Moving on to step number 3, and I cannot emphasize the importance of step number 3 enough. And here's how you want to think about this step. So in my old role, I was an online learning designer and I created e-learning programs around security, programs around fraud, generally boring security code of conduct type stuff. Interestingly though, even though those topics are not something I ever would be interested in, by the end of the project, I'd always be like fascinated by the topic that I was making the e-learning about. I'd come home telling Luke like facts about fraud and be like, did you know how easy it is to slip into fraud? Like, it's a slippery slope. If I ever stepped away from a project and had to come back to it, I would lose interest. But as soon as I got back to it and I spent some time with the content again, got to know it a little bit more again, I'd be interested again. I was able to reignite my interest by just re-engaging with it. And you can do the same thing with your goals, which is why step 3 is to organize a date night with your goals. This has 2 benefits. So firstly, action often leads to you figuring things out and having revelations. It's not usually the other way around. Sometimes you can have revelations and act on them, but a lot of the time you act and then eventually you have the revelation, whether it's while you're acting or a little bit later. You figure things out as you do, not the other way around. Secondly, the more time that you spend with the goal, the more connected you will feel with the goal. You can re-engage yourself and re-interest yourself in any goal just by spending time with it. Sometimes you just need to spend time with it even in your mind, but I really would encourage you to take actual action on it on your date night. At the end of every podcast episode, I always do Recs of the Week to help you to dive deeper into the topic of today's podcast episode. I have 2 Recs of the Week this week. Firstly, The Power of Flexing by Susan Ashford. The Power of Flexing by Susan Ashford is great, and I also interviewed Susan, and she was fabulous. Her book is full of so many like little nuggets of wisdom. You'll love it. And it was through that book that I actually found the research about reframing the weight loss journey as a journey being super helpful. The second rec of the week, this isn't to toot my own horn. It's just like the most directly relevant recommendation that I could give you. The second rec of the week is my product, the Life Map, which is a workbook / ebook. It really is the most directly relevant resource that I could think of to goal setting, staying connected with your goals, managing shiny goal syndrome, which is 100% a thing, and figuring out what you actually want. So I'm going to have that linked down in the show notes as always. I appreciate you so much, and I'll see you soon.